In dance class, we're told to utilize a variety of techniques to perfect our craft. Tighten your abs, use your spot, and use your plie. But very few dancers understand the biomechanics and physics behind these techniques.
In this video, real-life dancers will use real dance techniques in conjunction with physics concepts to help you improve your own technique and advance your skill level. Leaping is what many people think of when they think of dance. These can be amazing to watch, but they are very difficult to execute correctly. It is important to bend your knees before you leap so that you can leap higher and farther by increasing your projectile motion. Large leaps like saut de chasse and grand jetés also require a great amount of technique in order to prevent injuries. It is equally as important to bend your knees upon impact and to land toe, ball, heel, rather than immediately flat-footed to spread the force of the impact over a longer period of time. If you do not bend your knees and land on your whole foot rather than transitioning from your toes to the ball of your foot then to the heel, a large amount of impact force is spread over a short amount of time, causing the knees and ankles to jam and become injured. Turning is one of the most common elements of dance, whether it be an attitude turn or a standard pirouette. One of the biggest struggles of turning is doing consecutive turns on releve without falling over. The key to pirouettes and other turning movements has to do with torque. Torque is the force that propels the dancer around, also known as the change in angular momentum. Spotting or attaining a constant orientation of the dancer's head and eyes will help to maintain a constant torque and rotational velocity. The weight of your head whipping around is what generates this force, which is why the spot is so important. Torque is determined by the amount of force a dancer utilizes. For example, fouette turns are easier than pirouettes because in fouette turns, the dancer is using their spot in conjunction with the whipping of the leg to give them momentum, while in a pirouette, the dancer can only rely on their spot. This is why a dancer must constantly perfect their spot because it is what allows the dancer to maintain their momentum in a turn.
Flexibility is another key component in dance. Without flexibility, it would be hard to do many of the movements that dance requires. You can strengthen your flexibility by increasing the amount of time you spend stretching each day and by increasing the intensity of the stretches. In the context of Hooke's law, muscles can be perfectly elastic. To be perfectly elastic, the element must stretch and then go back to its normal dimension, and it must also have an instant force added or removed accompanying the instant change in dimension. The ratio of the stress applied to the strain is constant within elastic limits. In the graph, it perfectly shows the amount of stretch you need to have a healthy stretch and how much could cause destruction to your muscles. 0 to 1% stretch does barely anything to your muscles, but if you increase your force to 35 and your stretch in the 1 to 3% range, then you're stretching your muscles just enough to feel it and to avoid injury. But if you start increasing the stress in the 40 to 75 range and your strain to 3 to 8% range, you'll create major destruction to your muscles, which could lead to painful injury and pulling a muscle.
Dancers spend almost as much time in the air as they do on the ground, so being able to safely and effectively saute is extremely important. Whether the saute is in first, second, passe, retire, or échappé, they all require the same thing: height. In order to get off the ground, a dancer must exert a force on the ground that is greater than their body weight. This force always comes from your plie, as it builds elastic or potential energy. The deeper you plie, the more elastic energy you will build. The more force your muscles exert on the floor, the more kinetic energy you will have. This kinetic energy will then turn into gravitational energy, and more gravitational energy will give you greater height in your saute. One of the most important aspects of dance is simply to balance. From piqué turns to pirouettes to arabesques, balance is a key component in the execution of many movements. Newton's third law states that if an object exerts a force on another object, it will receive the same amount of force it exerted. So a dancer must exert a force straight down in order to stay vertical. If the force is exerted in any other direction, the dancer will be unbalanced. When going to eleve or releve, make sure your body and limbs are aligned so that you are able to exert a force directly downward so you stay balanced. This is also called finding your center of gravity.
I hope we taught you more about the mechanics of dance elements like leaps, sautes, turns, balance, and flexibility, and how physics can greatly improve your performance. Not only can physics improve your dancing abilities, but it can also help you in your everyday lives. We hope you can take this information and apply it to your journey through the dance world.